Hey, sick things, this is Alice Cooper, and this is Alexander Black from Half Past Dead, and you're watching RadioActive.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Radioactive. Today, me and Ian are joined by Alexander Black from Half Past Dead. How are you doing today, Alex?
I'm doing fantastical. How are you two?
I'm
Real
doing
good, man.
great. I can already tell that this is going to be one of the best interviews that we have done. So
I'm
I'm very
already
excited.
relaxed. I got my Michael Jackson pose ready and everything. Let's do it. What's going on with you two? What's going on? Let's get started.
Not a whole lot, man. Not a whole lot. Just adult shit.
Mhm.
Adulting.
What's that
Great.
like?
It sucks.
Yeah, I'm a kid at heart, and I think that everybody should be like that because then guess what? You go to a restaurant, you can just get all your meals for a very low price. I
Yes.
just order a lot of it. I just order everything on the kids menu twice, and it's like a full adult meal, but you're paying child prices.
Like a Happy Meal, like the Burger King kids
Yeah, but
meal.
it's
Like
like an
what else
obsessive
is there?
compulsive meal.
Right. Dude,
Organize
if
my
you go
fries
to
by
like
size and weight.
Taco Bell or you go to
You know,
like a
here's what's interesting. I can
right?
actually tell you about my food on my tour experience. I have a gluten allergy, so I really can't have anything with bread or anything like that. And as a singer, my body is a temple, as they say, but I don't. They say it, I don't, but I do a little bit. But so what I have to do is rice cakes and peanut butter and terrible overheated left in the sun dried fruit that gives you horrible poisoning because you don't realize that it's been left in the sun for too long. And then you're banging on the bathroom door while your drummer's in there taking up time. You're like, I gotta go, man.
So
My
is it just
experience.
dried up fruit or can you like
Oh, I can have anything I want. There's just consequences. See, I think that's the rock and roll diet. It's consequences and poor decisions.
yeah, that's it's usually how it is with drinking too. I
Yeah.
mean, geez. Tell us a little bit about the band. Where are you guys from and what do you hope to accomplish as musicians?
Excellent question. Well, there's two answers to that. So we are from Richmond, Virginia, which is a mid-Atlantic state in the United States of America. For those of you who don't watch geopolitical news, myself included, but we like to think of ourselves as from right in your living room because we make music for everybody. We don't classify ourselves geographically on any place. I mean, we play wherever we're welcome and we barge in wherever we're not. um, our as for your second part of the question, we hope to accomplish a lot of different things. I think as a consensus, the four of us are really interested in creating music that seems to have been passed by other bands of our genre. We're big fans of rock and roll. We grew up on it. I myself grew up on a heavy diet of television, radio, and iTunes when it came out. So I had older parents, so they introduced me to bands like Def Leppard and Aerosmith and Metallica at a young age. I wasn't listening to the younger stuff, and my favorite band of all time is Van Halen. So we make music that is um, high energy and fun to listen to and like rock and roll is supposed to be, but it also has an emotional connection to it as well. We like to spread awareness and more importantly spread familiarity with people that have troubles in their life, whether that's loneliness or rejection or confusion or things like that, because all the four of us all have a emotional connection and bond with music, and music is the universal language of love, and without music none of us would be here. And we try to write music that speaks to people on a very deep level and can inspire them to understand that they are not alone in those feelings and that they can overcome those feelings and um, truly feel something special in what they hear.
That is like one of the best
Damn.
answers to that question that I've ever heard. You
Thank you. I appreciate it.
usually so many musicians, when you ask like what kind of music they play, they're like dead set into one genre and they want to only be in that genre. As for you guys, you explain that you don't specialize in one area.
Well, we come off as like a 2010 metalcore band, but to be honest with you, a majority of what we listen to on the tour bus is like Prince and reggae and ska and, grunge. We listen to metal, but like I said, it's Black Sabbath, it's Iron Maiden, it's I Love Me a Pat Benatar. I grew up with those icons and like Kiss and stuff like that. And
Dude,
we just we
I
like that
just
style. And the music that we make, we like to be reminiscent of that. I mean, let's be honest, you turn on, Boston's first record, you're like, this is amazing. There's nothing else like it. And that's what we want to be. And that's who we aspire to be. And honestly, I think that's who we become.
dude, I am so happy you said Pat Benatar. She is
Oh,
so
dude.
underrated.
Her and Neil Giraldo, man, those two, powerhouse, dynamo.
Well, it's like I kind of resonate with that, man. I really do, because it's like growing up, that's what my parents would have on in the car all the
Yeah.
time, and I just kind of grew up listening to that. My dad really likes Pink Floyd. Uh, he put on a couple of Tom Petty albums, but there's this
Stop
guy.
right
I don't
there.
know.
Tom Petty is my favorite American songwriter. Actually, I'd go as far as say he's my favorite songwriter. I cried like a baby 4 times in my life: when Robin Williams passed away, when Tom Petty passed away, when Eddie Money passed away, and when Meatloaf passed away. My heroes are dying. And you know what? I'm here to take up the torch and carry it on forward. So I'm glad that you mentioned Tom Petty. He's one of my favorites of all time. You ask anybody.
Oh, dude, so many people. When did you graduate high school?
Oh man, I want to say 1880, 2017.
No shit,
Yes, sir.
dude. Me too. So we're the
Look at
same
that.
age. You're 23, right?
Yes, sir.
You know that in addition to Tom Petty, Van Halen died, I think, when I was in community college. It was David Bowie, it was Prince.
Mhm.
Oh God, who else? When did Mac Miller die?
That was fairly recent. I'm not entirely sure.
I think that was my
My
middle
memory's a little
school years or
fuzzy on
high
that.
school years.
You know,
Yeah, but like, yeah, no, dude, you and I both know that like in the 4 years of our high school career, dude, people were dying left and right. It's
yeah.
like you said, Robin Williams. Like, bro, my buddy Mike, I think we were freshmen or sophomores, and he said, "You like Robin Williams, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why? I fucking love him." And Mike was like, "Oh," and I'm like, "What?" And then I turn on the TV, and it's like, no.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of kids can see that's the difference. I think at least for me, a lot of the kids' first experience with him was Night at the Museum. Correct? For me, again, my
Yeah.
introduced me to older movies. My first experience with him was Miss Doubtfire. So
Oh, no
I
kidding.
Yeah, so I think to tie this back into like music, I think of everything as cross training. I think of all the movies I watch, the radio I listen to, the things I see in the world when I'm exercising, my mentality during that. It all goes into my music. Everything I hear and see, it goes into the lyrics, it goes into the guitar playing, into the drumming. It's thematic. I'm a big fan of vaudeville. I grew up watching The Wizard of Oz religiously, and I could act out any scene. I could sing out any part, and I would do it, and I still do. And that all goes into what I do. And I think that uh, iconography and that fun and that kind of mystery is lacking in rock and roll these days. And that's kind of what we're trying to bring back. Because for me, that's the magic. That's the fun of it.
You said Wizard of Oz. You know what that makes me think of?
Yeah,
Did you ever see they did a mini series? I think Zoe Deschanel was Dorothy. It's called Tin Man.
I did not.
You should check that out. It's really cool, man.
I
It's
am
got
known
a different adaptation. Really dark.
I am known for my at least recently, as of 2012 and on, I think I've seen 4 movies that have come out since 2012. I have had because we're do it ourselves musicians. I'm a booking manager. I got this going on. I'm writing music. I'm doing it, and I love doing it. That's why I go, hey, I can watch a movie anytime. This is what I love doing. Being on here with you lovely folks, it's fantastic. And so I don't have the time so much, or maybe I should make more time. I'm not sure to watch these sorts of things, but I will check that out and I'll let you know
Well,
what you think of it.
I'll say this with a straight face. There are certain movies that you watch and you're just like, oh my God, that was terrible. That was just awful. See, I'm kind of the opposite. I'm like a huge avid moviegoer. I'm actually really, really into it. And then there are people not necessarily that have that same mentality, but they just don't really watch movies or TV shows. They just don't. Some
I
people
think
don't
that's
even like reading or anything. Not that it's like they don't dislike it, they just don't. Or like in your case, when you have like a full plate, right?
sure.
You're
I have it
making
on
a
his
drink or
background stuff.
something.
Our guitar player, Jack Devil, that's a movie guy. He's a big horror fan. He loves movies, but he's seen comedies. He's seen everything. Him and Thomas, our bass player, they've seen movies galore. And every time we're at a rehearsal or a band meeting, they're like, "Hey, have you seen that? Remember that scene?" I'm like, "I haven't seen it," and they have that look of, you know.
That's what Ian does when I tell him I haven't seen something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we share a connection there,
Yeah.
Victoria. We're both like,
Yeah, I know. Like, I'm not a big movie person, and I watch TV like sometimes, but not a whole lot.
you know what
She's
I?
also a real chicken.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
shut up. I'm scared of chickens. I wouldn't
You
classify
are.
it.
That's valid. That's fair. I study and I've studied this assiduously since I was in grade school. I study music videos. That's my choice because I watch, like I said, I'm a deserving. I watch music videos, I watch live videos, live clips, and I'm like, ooh, how can I call it working from a resource because and again, it goes into my music. I think, I could sit in a dark room and wait for the hand of God to grace me an idea, but in my experience, that hasn't really worked out. So I work from a resource. I watch videos of like Eddie Money swinging his microphone around. Like, that's awesome. I wonder if I could do something like that. And I incorporate that into our shows. And if anyone watching has been to a half fest show, you'll understand. Oh, now I see why they do all that crazy stuff. Now you can trace it back. You timeline it. You go back through the ages and go, oh, okay. They're repurposing some stuff. Putting a
When
little
did you guys get started?
great question. I started the band in high school in 2014. A lot of on and off members trying to find. I had a vision, right? And I had this idea. And some people, they find out as they grow older, I don't really want to do music or like, it's not my thing or, you know, creative differences we should call it but I'd say officially this lineup we have when we got Thomas our bass player in and John and Jack that started in 2020 and that's when we really started to kick off. I found the right pair of guys. They work well and they're great players, they're great dudes, and we really got a ball rolling. And that I'd say officially now I'm rewriting the history. 2020 is when we really started.
So I guess
Yeah.
this can kind of tie into our next question then. You guys just released a single, The Evil That
Yes,
You
we
Make.
did.
Can you
Yes.
tell us a little bit about the single and also the music video? Because you directed that.
Yes, I'd love to. So, yes, The Evil That You Make is a song that I wrote while I was in college. I'm a music major. I studied at Catawba College. I'm sorry. They're probably going, oh no, not this guy again. But I was in my room and I actually I took 2 semesters, I think two or 2.5 semesters of German. And I was pretty good. But I again, we write music that we try to connect with people. And you ever been in a situation where you say the wrong thing or you mess up and it's in front of everybody and they're all looking at you and you feel
Yeah.
that the sweat start to pour down? And so I had this feeling and I'm like, I feel totally embarrassed. And so I wrote down the lyric, the first line of the song: you feel their eyes sharp as knives, carving lies they criticize. And the song is really about feeling self-conscious and eventually overcoming that self-conscious and reveling in the like accepting the feeling like, yeah, this sucks, but I'm here. And those sorts of negative emotions, that means you're alive and it's not there to defeat you. It's there to remind you to keep going and to accept that you're flawed and to accept that you're going to make mistakes, but it's okay. And it goes into a little bit more of the psychosis of it, but and I make it a little more colorful for again for theatrical purposes. But the gist of the song is such. And as for the music video, it's actually it's a funny story because we started shooting in 2021 or 2022. I don't exactly remember. But what happened was I got a group of actors and they were fantastic. They're credited on the YouTube video, which you can find on our website, halffastedmusic.com. And we shot in our bass player's shed. And then come to find out, and we did it at the height of the pandemic and everyone was safe, but we didn't really get as many people as we wanted to. For if you've seen the video, there's extras and there's a lot of rocking out, very Beartooth inspired. And so I said, what if we just do some reshoots? And then come to find out during in the United States during that period in winter, a bunch of snow and a tree fell on the shed, thus kind of ruined our setting, you know? So we had to pick, I went location scouting and I found a place and I said, guys, let's do some reshoots. And so we reshot it. It was better than ever. We got Timothy Weststock to film it. He's fantastic. And we all pitched in and Jack filled some scenes and everyone was great. But yeah, I sketched out the idea. I storyboarded it. I have it around here somewhere. And I said, what if we make the concept, because it's about insecurity and that danger, what if we make it a little controversial? Because that's another thing I feel like is missing from rock and roll. Everyone's too afraid to step out of the gap of being safe. And see, we're not that kind of band. We're okay with a little bit of fire. So I said, what if we make it like one of those fabled internet red rooms? And so the torture room, right? You feel tortured inside. And as the video progresses, you'll find that the scenes with the torture victim, she overcomes and defeats the bad guy. Again, I grew up watching vaudeville and stuff. And, you know, the good guy, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, good over evil. I watched The Stand with Stephen King. I watched that as a kid, the little miniseries from the 80s. And, you'll find that that she overcomes this evil, this dark presence, and she wins. She's a little roughed up in the end, but she wins. And that's kind of the video coincides with the lyrics and with the music, and it builds and builds, sort of like the guitar solo and Ain't Talking About Love. And that's kind of what I wanted, and I think it turned out great, and I'm very proud of it. And the crew and the actors and our extras, which actually were our fans, and they were so great. Everybody was amazing. It was just a fun experience, and we have two more videos planned before we release our album. Two more singles coming out. That's right, you heard me. And but The Evil That You Make is definitely my favorite song I've written musically. I think it just is a heavy rockin' tune, and it's fun, it's high energy, it's fast, but it's digestible, you know? It's not too much, I think.
So, being an English major, I do a lot of freelance poetry writing. I have my own thing on TikTok called the Untitled Project, right? I also do short stories. And one I just did, I'm really trying to get it out there for everybody to see. I'll share it with you, Alex, when I get done here.
Absolutely. And I'll share it with the world.
It's called Bara. And if you're unfamiliar with that term, Bara means to create from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same idea here. It's this guy, right? Me actually. I come home from work and school one day and I just collapse in bed and go to sleep, but I don't really wake up. My body's there, but my spirit is not there. And then the whole story is me just essentially trying to run away from this demon, this creature, this scary thing that's like trying to pin me down and like eat my soul. And the very end of the story is me standing up, gaining control of my mind and my spirit, and then beating it. But there's two alternate endings, and one of them is getting sent into heaven, and God is there, and he approaches me, or rather, I approach him. It's this whole thing. You'd have to
I
read
love
it.
it. I'd love to investigate more.
I'm right there with you, dude. I have the same thing kind of going with that insecurity, that feeling
Brilliant. Yeah.
nothing is going to get better. Everything's just going to suck for the rest of our lives. It doesn't have to.
Right. And I think the feeling we feel is present so much in the generation, including, you know, Victoria, you're a little younger than us. We have a few years, but I wrap you into this generation. I think we feel this pressure from since our childhood. We're pressured to perform well, we're pressured to do this, and we feel like when we mess up, it's forever, but it's just that moment. But those moments I find are important to hold on to, because I've learned in my experience, and not just music, but in life, that it's important to mess up and recognize when you fail, because failure is your best teacher. I did not get anywhere in life by doing things the right way because I didn't know what I did. When I mess up and I fail, I figure out what I did wrong and I learn from it and I pick myself up and I keep going. And I think that's the biggest thing with Half Past Dead, is that that's the message, that if people take anything away from our music, and if you listen to our EP from 2016, the song Half Past Dead is really kind of about that, and also not wasting the time that you have here on this planet. You get one life, and why spend it living your life like you're half past dead, right? And it's kind of like an anti anthem, if you will. You don't want to end up on your deathbed with regrets and like, I wish I would have done this, shoulda, woulda, coulda. You do the best you can in that moment and you keep going. I will say this, directing it was hard because I'm in it. So I brought a megaphone. I'm like, okay, guys, cut. And then I go, all right, we're going to go on to this scene now. And I'm getting my guitar on. And they're like, hey, I got questions. I go, hold on a second. Let me get my shoe, you know?
Right.
So it was a challenging process. And it was the first time I ever did anything because we had someone actually on to actually be the director and they flaked out on us. So I decided, screw it. If you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. The show must go on, baby. So I figure I have the image in my head. Why not do it myself? So I did. And like I said, I'm very proud of it. And honestly, despite all that, I couldn't have done it without my bandmates and without the fans and without Timothy behind the camera. It was a perfect storm. And I'm working with him again on these future videos. So it's just I couldn't have asked for a better group of people to work with.
This is kind of like we just talked about movies. It's kind of like shooting a movie,
It is. Oh, it
right?
definitely is. And I have much more respect for cinematographers now and directors and filmmakers and even actors. There's a principle I learned in one of my classes at college, mise en scène, that everything in a scene is done on purpose, all the way from the shadowing to the color that the main character is wearing. And it all has a metaphor or an allegory or it's more blatant. And I tried to incorporate some of that into the music video because it is like a movie and I wanted people to watch it how I see the world, like a movie, like a vaudeville act from. And actually, if you look at it and you really analyze it in the scenes that with the torture master and whatnot, it's kind of like an old 1950s, 60s B movie, like a horror movie, and that's kind of how we wanted it to be. It kind of a little cheesy, but fun nonetheless.
No, I agree. I want to say, um, Victoria is a bit younger than us, and you're absolutely right. I think I I feel as though my parents, especially my dad, no ill will towards my parents, by the way, wonderful people, but we were talking earlier about, I guess, the idea that society wants us to be someone that we don't necessarily want to be. And we're not we don't really we want to live up to our own expectations. We want to pursue things that we're passionate about, even though our parents might not necessarily be supportive. Their ideology, their legacy is to work and go to school and get a good career, this, that, and the other, right? I'm doing those things. But this is something else that I'm pretty adamant about too. And I wish more people were like you, Alex. I wish more people had your attitude and your mindset, man.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and I'll say this: um, what generation doesn't have the rebellious youth? I think they all have throughout time. I mean, you look at it back to the Stone Age, like, hey, mom and dad, I want to start using these bronze tools. Like, what are you talking about, son? We use stones. Hey, mom and dad, I want to start using iron. What are you talking about? We're using, you know what I mean? All the way up through like, hey, the Industrial Revolution. Like, I want to go work on this skyscraper. What are you doing up in the sky? We need to start farming. Who's going to feed the hogs? That kind of thing. And yes, that's a Norm Macdonald joke. But I think that even our parents' generation, they rebelled against their parents, and whether that's I'm going to go smoke some grass and listen to the Doors, or I'm going to go to college and become a consultant. And it's like I don't want to do what you want me to. I don't want to play sports or be a doctor or whatever it may have you. And I think that our generation, it's different in the sense that the entertainment industry is a little more accessible. Because of things, the advent of social media and being able to see these things. And I think a big problem, and I got some words for this, maybe we can do this another time on this podcast, but I think the public school systems, at least in the United States, have certainly failed a lot of kids in terms of not allowing and opening their minds to uh, showing them a viable career path in a lot of things. And I think that the focus on STEM and sports is just a little too um, over expressed to the point where people that aspire to be artists or musicians or entertainers or anything other than math and science are almost shunned and discouraged. And I think that's not fair. And I think that if you look at a lot of things in life without art, music, history, reading, there's not a whole lot to offer. I mean, think if you watched a commercial and all there is a QR code designed by some computer guy. It's like, I don't even know what that is. I want to buy something that looks awesome. The presentation, that's all marketing. That's art, that's psychology, that's history of the human mind. And that's kind of the stuff that I would love for more young people to be encouraged to explore, but it's up to the adults to be the ones to say, hey, this is doable, but if you want to do it, you got to really work for it. And that's something that I really pride myself on is that um I did the work. I didn't, go down a path that I didn't want to go down. But I understood the consequences. Say, okay, if I want to do this, I got to really, really work hard for it. And we have, and I'm not going to stop anytime soon. So, but I appreciate you. I mean, you guys are a great example as well. You're doing this podcast. This is something that a lot of people are afraid to step into, and you guys are doing a great job. So hats off to you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
And
It's
actually, back to the school system thing, I remember when I was in high school, I really wanted to be a radio host when I graduated. I wanted to be on air. And I
Huh.
remember the vice principal needed like our whatever forms for our grade 12 year that we had to fill out for all of our classes. And then you had to put what you want to do after you graduate. And I put radio host and I handed her the paper. She looked at it. She looked at me and said, "You might want to rethink that,"
Oh
and
yeah,
walked
we've all
away.
gotten that. We've all gotten that response. I want to
And I was
rethink.
like, that's so stupid. And then you have another kid that's like, I want to play in the NHL. And it's like, yeah, go for it. And it's like,
mm,
what?
Both are equally hard. Actually, I'd say that both are just as hard. I mean, at least with the radio, won't get your teeth knocked out. But although that's not
But
entirely
just
true.
musician
It's
too,
wrong.
right? You tell someone you want to be a musician, and it's like, oh, you can't do that. But then
Or
someone will
they
be like,
say,
I want to be a hockey player. And it's like, oh, yeah, you can do that.
I agree to some extent. I think the American education system is a little corrupt. Especially I believe that certain careers do not require a 4-year degree, and yet you have to go to school and you have to get this degree in
that's what we're
order
told
to.
now.
Right, exactly. Like, and I hope this doesn't come back to bite me later, but I work for a company called Enterprise, right? And you need a 4-year degree to move up from a grunt, right? The guy that cleans cars and drives people around. I think that's a little absurd. And I've had area managers, like big bosses, come up to me and they're like, "Oh yeah, Ian, no, I completely agree with you." And I don't know, man. I applied for a Pell Grant. They denied me. I pay my own bills. I live on my own. I work. I go to school. I'm the co-host of this show. It's no easy feat. There are some days where I just don't feel motivated to do anything. I'm just freaking exhausted. And I just wish that the American education system would lend a helping hand, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Before we get too off track, I want to say in high school, you guys have seen this. Alex, I guarantee you, you've seen this too. Kids like us, we got made fun of, right? We got told that listening to rock and roll and dressing in all black is stupid and satanic and weird. And I see all these popular kids, and I'm not afraid to say this either. Andy gave me the confidence to really just give it to the people that talk a lot of shit on you. Um,
Yeah.
you see all the popular kids? You guys, you all know, both of you, Alex, Victoria, you both have seen the popular kids with the clicks, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All of the blonde chicks and the dudes who were super jacked, super fun, right? Everyone wanted to be them. Look at them now.
Well, I'll say this about that. I have some comments on that. I think that the prioritization of social hierarchy in high school definitely plays a part in that. And I think that a lot of those kids didn't know what they wanted. I think that they were influenced too easily by the others around them, and to no fault of their own. Just, I mean, we're still developing minds at that age. But I find that the more disturbing thing is the lack of a path out of that life. There's no, I feel like those people were afraid to really be, I mean, some of them really like that lifestyle and they like to wear, pink shorts and polos and boat shoes, even though they're nowhere near a body of water. That's fine. Hey, I'm all for doing whatever you wanted to wear. Wear what you want to wear. I'd be a hypocrite if I said you can't wear that. But I'll say this. Um, it's important to remember that we're all people. And I think that the decisions we make, whether I certainly was picked on, but in other ways, my school was more psychological. but I was too busy plugging in my earbuds, listening to Black Veil and Van Halen and Aerosmith and the Misfits. And I was a big Misfits listener. I definitely, you can hear in my voice, I sound a little bit like Michael Graves, I've been told. But I'll say this, it's important to remember that we can't control the actions of other people, but we certainly can control how we react to things and other people. So um, be in the world what you would like to see from others, because then I think there's a reciprocity there. If you're a kind person, then people will tend to be kind back to you. And if they aren't, then you don't need to worry about it. I don't know. I feel like I'm going to butcher who said this. I don't know if it was Socrates or Seneca, but it was there are two things a man needn't worry about: things that he can control and things that he cannot. So if you can control it, it's like, well, then you fix it or then you resolve it in some way. And if you can't, you don't have to worry about it. And that's sort of been my philosophy. And I'm a definite believer that everything happens for a reason. And I think that the things in my life, the events, the positive, the negative, and the neutral led me to be right here. And I couldn't be happier. So, but I agree with you in the sense that there is a stigma to this kind of music. And I think there always has been in this sort of culture. What I don't really like is and I'm not one of these people like, oh, yeah, yeah. But I will say this: the appropriation of rock and roll, making it into something like a commodity, just bothers me in some way. And you see in the music video, I wear the fuck pop music T-shirt. Now that is not against the genre per se, but that is against the industry that churns out this plastic shrink wrap music and these prepackaged Barbie dolls and Ken dolls that walk up on stage and lip sync the new light beer commercial. Yes, that is also a Tom Petty reference, but there's some truth to that. And we don't, in my band, we don't use backing tracks. We don't overprocess our music. What I sing on the record, I sing live. What we play on the record, we play live. We don't do anything that you don't hear at a live show, because that to us is the essence of raw. That comes from the soul. And that's what rock and roll's always been about. No rules, but definitely no big machine behind you. I'll say this, that every single that's coming out will be on the album. We have two more. We're started off with The Evil That You Make, a little more visceral, high energy rock and roll. The next one we have coming out is called Show Me the Way, and it is not the Peter Frampton song, but it's a ballad. It's my favorite song that I've written lyrically. It is sort of about the throes of depression and anxiety and so the things we talked about, the pressures of living up to other people's expectation. And it's kind of like a back and forth story. I wrote it about someone in my life that was going through a really tough period, but as the song progresses, I switch the tone. The narrative becomes sort of from my perspective. And I didn't realize until about a year or two later that I was really writing the song about how I was feeling through watching this person go through it, and how I was feeling very sympathetic and helpless in that situation. And again, with the music video that we're doing with this, you'll see a lot of that imagery. We're bringing on I won't give this away because I really want, I really want everyone to check out the video for themselves. And I don't want to give too much pretext or context before it's, because I like that little bit of mystery. And I think music and art is something that everybody should be able to interpret for themselves. I don't want to give away everything, but you'll see the imagery match the lyrics as well in this one, and in the following in the final single before the release, the big release. That one is called Unbreakable, and it's sort of about the struggle that I and my other bandmates went through to get to where we want to be on the right path with the music and with the band, and about all the bad stuff that came our way, like the pandemic hit, we couldn't go on tour that one year, like, oh no, what do we do? And we made do. We go, hey, let's take this time and really connect with our fan base. And we love our fans so much. We gave them a little name. They're called dissenters, right? We're all about nonconformity and being ourselves, and we dissent against the whatever anyone tells us, and that's their nickname, right? And we love them. They're such nice people, and they're so supportive. And that song is really for them. Everything we do is really for them, but and it's also for us because we want to love it too. But that song in particular is one about persevering and just being confident in yourself, and telling yourself, hey, this is doable. I can do whatever your dreams may be. They're doable. And if you say it enough, I think you manifest it in some way. And it can be anything. If you want to be a lawyer and people are telling you can't be no lawyer, and then you go, well, watch me, son. You put on your little suspenders and your coat and you go into that office, you pass the bar, and you see, I told you so. And that's kind of the idea for that one. So there's a lot of emotions and a lot of different topics we discuss on the album, um, that I'm really excited to finally put out.
So, Alex, you guys are planning on releasing an album, Kiss the World Goodbye. Can you give us any insight on when you plan on releasing that?
That's a very very great question that we've been asked by a lot of people, and we've even asked ourselves that a couple times. So we, like I said, are very DIY group, and we initially took it upon ourselves to begin recording in, I believe, 2020, just before Thomas joined the group. And a lot of these songs actually I wrote back in high school and through college before a lot of the guys were in the band, and I arranged it, I composed all these stuff, and when they came in, they kind of added their tweaks, and we kind of made it our own, right? And so, excuse me, instead of the Alexander Black project, we made it into a half-past because I always wanted it to be a group effort, no matter if say Jack writes a full song and we'll always come to each other and be like, hey, what do you think? Do you want to add something? Do you think this is too much? Should we always want to discuss it, because to us, the song is the master, not our egos, not the guitar player, not the singer. I am a guitar player first. I didn't start singing until I think that was like my fourth or fifth instrument. I did guitar, bass, piano, banjo, if you can believe that, and the mandolin. Then I just kind of started singing. So I don't have lead singer syndrome, although I do come across that. I do have a great singer joke that I'll tell you at the end of this. But with this album, it's definitely a work of the mind. It's definitely about a lot of different things that have gone on in the past 10 years, in whether that's within our own heads or within the society that we observe. And the title track, Kiss the World Goodbye, it's kind of about the end of innocence. We're growing up and we have to accept that there are things in life that aren't fair. And whether we stand up against them and it's worth it to do so, or we say, hey, this isn't really worth getting upset about, that's up for the listener to decide. They need to make up their own minds on what they think is important, because we're not like a lot of these celebrity bands that tell you, oh, you have to do this, you gotta root for this guy, or you gotta do this for. But we're here to say, hey, this is what's going on, and you guys make up your own minds and you decide what's important for you, because I think it's autonomy is important. I think understanding your own values and having your own opinion and doing what you think is necessary is much more important than trying to appease larger groups of people, or just someone else. I think that your own mind is more important, and your priorities matter, because if you can't decide what you want in the world, how can you decide what you want in your own life, and vice versa? So they cover everything from insecurity to violence in the world. I mean, we talk about the whole, and not to bring this up, make it a somber situation, and my heart goes out to everybody in Ukraine, but we bring up things like that, these global catastrophes, all the way up to like personal matters, because regardless of the situation, the attention that you give yourself does translate to the attention you give the world, we find. And the more and more we go down these avenues of infighting and pitting our neighbors against each other, it does more harm than good. And I think music is supposed to be unifying, and we just see more division and division and division, and it's sad to see that from a genre such as rock and roll. Rock and roll is supposed to unite everybody, and it's all about peace, love, and I'm a combat hippie, peace, love, and heavy weapons. But anyway, it's all supposed to be about care for each other and understanding, and being in a mature enough place to say, hey, I may not be what you like, but I will still love you regardless. And that's kind of what we talk about in all, I think, 11 tracks on the album. And there are two instrumental tracks, and they carry as much weight. It starts off with a piano piece that I wrote. It's just me on a piano, and it's very thematic. And I think it sets the tone for that. This album, compared to their 2016 release, is more mature, but we still don't lose that energy. We're not boring. We're not pulling a Phil Collins on anybody, although I love the man, but we are still bringing the heat, but in a much more digestible and realistic way. And I'm excited for it. I'm excited to put it out. And you asked when we're going to put it out. I'm thinking hopefully the end of the single cycle. I want to give every single a couple weeks to marinate. I want them to take on a life of their own because I don't just want to put out single after single and then it becomes too much and people don't really pay attention to the meaning behind the song because I think that's important, or what it means to them, I should say. And once that's through, I'm thinking maybe, let's see, it's January, so maybe late March, early April, somewhere around there, to give the three singles enough time to really build anticipation, and then we want to just make it a big show, right? I can't stand bands that just put out, here's our album. It's like, nah, man, this is an event. This is a one-time thing. It's gonna happen. It's like New Year's for us. When I was a kid, I grew up and there was the ball's gonna drop and we'd all gather around the TV and watch, and it was a big deal. And you look at it as an adult, you kind of lose that magic. Like I said, I'm a child at heart. Everything is an event to me. Everything is fun. Let's make this as entertaining as possible because that's what we're supposed to do, especially in this genre. I think the entertainment aspect of whether it's the live music or the way we release everything on the digital interwebs, it lacks that fun. And that's kind of what I want to bring back. And so I think that's what's going to be when this album does come out. Um, it's going to feel like that. Guarantee it.
I get really nostalgic, especially when I drive. So I'm not too far from my mom and dad. I live 20 or 25 minutes away. But
Sure.
even so, driving down to Oakville is where I'm from, Oakville, Missouri. And it sucks. Like I hate driving down there and being like, I don't live here anymore. My youth, it's gone. I'm getting older. And my friend Madeline and I were hanging out with our friend Mary, or actually Madeline and Mary are sisters. I feel like I'm having a stroke. Oh my God.
You shouldn't have had that Motrin.
Yeah, no kidding. We were hanging out, we were walking their dog, and my friend Madeline said something to me that's been sticking with me, and I cannot get it out of my head. It ties into how we're just getting older and our youth is behind us. She said, yeah, Oakville's kind of a toxic place. I mean, as long as you kind of just lay low, do your own thing, you're fine. But then whenever you get involved, everyone just kind of shoots you down. Something like that. It wasn't exactly that, but it was pretty damn close. And I just kind of stopped in my tracks. They were still walking the dog, and I was like, what the fuck? That's so weird, man. That just makes me think, because she's absolutely right, dude. It goes back into what we were talking about earlier, about how all of us are insecure because these people, they want you to follow a certain path in life or give in to the oppressor, right? I don't want to do that. I want to be my own person. It's essentially kind of why I moved out, not just to, you know, be my own man, but I wanted to
Ian,
like,
would you like me to drop a truth bomb on you right now?
sure.
You say things a lot like, I want to be my own person and I want to do these things and I don't want to do what they do. Well, guess what, my friend? You are doing it. You are your own person. Look at you right now. You're on this podcast. You are living on your own. You are doing your life. You are what you say you want to be, and you are not what you say you don't want to be. You're doing it right now and you don't realize it, but you are. And everybody sitting here, myself included, we are always our worst critic, right? We always think we could be doing better. We could be here and not here. But I'll say this, you have to go down the wrong path every now and then to figure out where the right path is. Because if you just stand still, you still are just as clueless about where you want to be. But I'm sure you've both Victoria and you, Ian, have gone down the wrong path a few times. It goes like, I think I want to do this. And like, no, I don't want to be here. I want to be closer over there. Well, you wouldn't have known that if you didn't go down that path. But now that you're here, how does it feel to know that you are doing these things and you're doing it your way? You're pursuing this podcast. You are running your life the way you want it to be run. Although that doesn't mean that there are things in your life that happen that are not in your control, but the things that you can control, you are doing the best you can and managing in a way that you see fit. And that's nothing to sneeze at. And that's an accomplishment in itself. So give yourself more credit. And anyone out there listening, give yourself more credit as well, because you are doing the best you can.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Everybody needs someone. I'm everybody's hype man. Everybody needs someone to pick them back up and say, "Hey, man, you're doing great," and you are, and both of you are. And again, I will say this until the cows come home, I cannot thank you guys enough for letting me be on here and talk to you guys. It's been really fun. And I'm enjoying this.
Of course, man. Yeah, man. My dad always, essentially he begged me not to move out. He really didn't want me to leave until I finished college. And I was like, I got to do this for me. It's not just a college thing. It's me wanting to go and do my own thing and be independent. And granted, I didn't have a whole lot of rules at home. I was very fortunate to be able to do the things that I wanted to do. Mostly just having people over at my leisure and making sure that we were being respectful, but getting to have friends over.
But you still decided upon yourself to do those things. I mean, I myself, I'm a very, I have very upper middle class parents, and I was very privileged. I'm adopted from Colombia. Me and my sister, although my sister and I aren't related, but we're both adopted from Colombia, and we were brought to America. And my parents instilled in us hard work. And yes, I wasn't rich, but I wasn't poor. I grew up very fortunate, and I think that when it comes to our personal lives, that doesn't necessarily matter because we still had to make these decisions and make these calls like, I want to do this and then go do it. Jack, on the other hand, when I met him, he was homeless. He was poor. I'm talking straight up on the streets. And I've had the privilege of watching him and become one of the most kindest and resourceful people I've ever met in my life. And I love all my bandmates so much. Tommy and John. John I've known for so many years. He's a great guy, and he's a wonderful father. And Tommy is he's just a blast to be around. But I bring up Jack because he and I actually are probably, when it comes to our upbringing, are so different. He now owns a house, and with his brother, and who's one of our roadies, and he's just a self-made guy. But he and I are kind of now on this equal level. And it just goes to show that no matter where you come from, um, the decisions you make are yours and you own them. And if you've gone anywhere, the progress you've made, no matter if it's a sprint or a crawl, you did that. And take pride in that. Look back and go, you know what? People always think, um, you know, look how much I've had to struggle through. But I like to look at it like, look how far you can go, and think of it how much further you can go. That's kind of a better mentality. I had a struggle with that sort of thinking towards the end of my college career, and I decided to take it upon myself to think more positively on the bright side. I was always a pessimist growing up. I was always thinking, but I decided one day, maybe that's a choice I'm making. Maybe it's a choice that I'm being so negative and harsh on myself and in the world. And I said, what if I try my best, even if I'm having the worst day of my life, to find the silver lining? Because there always is one. And if you focus on that, you can get through that tough time. And if you have friends and people around you that care and support you, and you surround yourself with those people, then it'll be a lot easier. I'm not saying it'll be easy. It's not a cakewalk. Life is not a cakewalk, and we don't get out of it alive. But with everyone around you and music and art to support you, there's no telling you. Sky's the limit. And I think what the three of us are doing is a testament to that, especially in this day and age. It's the competition, the social media, everyone's attention spans are shortening, but we still dedicate ourselves to what we love to do.
I 110% agree with you, man. I mean, the sky, and first of all, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, because I really feel like, there's some days where I just think I want this podcast to blow up. And I know my partner does too.
Podcast is awesome.
More than anything, we want it to just grow big. But we're coming from a very humble beginning. I mean, her setup looks a lot better than mine.
I've been doing it a little bit longer than you have, though.
And
it's the blue light. It's flattering,
Oh, absolutely, man. And that makes me feel really, really giddy, because I'm like, what?
Hey,
no,
you know what? Go look at look at the first 2 episodes of Radioactive. My setup did not look anything like this. It takes a while to figure out. So once you figure it out, it works.
See, I did a few of these at my mom and dad's, like Chris Biersack. We did that at my mom and dad's. Lindsey Martin, we did that there. And the background was actually kind of cool because we had two
Mhm.
posters and then an orange wall. Really cool.
I think that's what makes this podcast fun is that it's there's a term called wabi-sabi. Are you guys familiar with that?
Yes.
Yeah, it means, for those who don't know, it means it's perfect because it's a little fucked up. Like your favorite pair of jeans. That's wabi-sabi. It's got a little rip in it, you know? And everything I do, like I said, it's cross training. Everything I do goes in my music and that goes into my life and it cycles back and forth. Um, I have this zebra print here. I have the Ouija board. I have Alice Cooper. I have Hugsy from Friends, my favorite TV show back here. But
Friends
all,
is my favorite. I'm drinking out of a Friends mug right now.
perfect.
Oh, that's what that is.
I'm gonna give you guys an exclusive. This is really what's gonna put the nail in the coffin on the best podcast. You're gonna get a great shot of my hind end here, real quick. Hold on. Make that your thumbnail, internet. This is Hugsy. Got him for Christmas. So yeah, he's my favorite right now. You can see his little eyes here. Anyway, what are you looking at? So my point is that I set up everything here on purpose because it's a presentation, and like I do everything, I got my logo on the back here. Everywhere I go, I always present the way that I want to be presented. So what you see is what you get. I go to bed wearing this kind of stuff. I tell you, I went to bed wearing my stage makeup, and I woke up the next day, walked right back on that stage, and I was like, "Hello, it's me again." And they're like, "Oh, geez." But see, that's kind of the idea with our culture. That's sort of the vibe. That's why I like this podcast because you guys present honestly and you're real people. I'm not talking to a bunch of like, okay, and then it's organic. I can't sit through that boring stuff. Although I'm changing the channel, man. But you guys, I was talking to Victoria over text, and like I really genuinely love this channel. I watch it all the time. And it's just a fun thing. And I'm like, I gotta be on this podcast. And it's really fun talking with you guys because you're real people. And I love real people. I'm very interested in people. And I especially love interesting people. I'm interested in interesting people.
So, Alex, we were talking the other day about vocal health, and you are just getting over an illness. Can you give some tips to other people who may have struggled with the same thing?
Singers of the world, we need to have a talk. So, but I look way better with these on. So we're gonna talk like this. So yeah, over the winter, as you do, I get a viral infection. I work with kids in my off time. I teach music. You gotta pass it forward, right? You get paid for it. And I probably got something from one of them. And what happens sometimes is if you don't know, your vocal cords sit in your larynx, and they're kind of shaped like little parentheses, and they're little mucus fibers, and they sort of, when you talk or when you phonate or sing, they flutter together and they produce sound. And this sometimes they slam together at like 1,000 times a second or something like that. And as you can imagine, they're very delicate. So if you're a singer, the worst thing you could do is start shouting really loudly or whispering or passing dry air over them. And that's why it's important to hydrate and get a humidifier and air purifier for you. So being a singer is high maintenance, right? And because your body's your instrument, and you only get one set. You don't get to repair a string like a guitar player. You don't get to replace the head on your drum. You are the drum. So it's important to take care of your voice, and that's something that when I started singing, I didn't really have any formal lessons, and my introduction teachers weren't very good. I was telling you guys before we actually started, before we came on, that I classify it as a baritone vocalist, but if you listen, when you listen to The Evil That You Make, you'll hear I hit this really high F sharp 5, very much out of the baritone range. I've sort of expanded my range upper and lower. Like I said, I listen to everything from Johnny Cash to Prince. So I can sing, I can go into Kiss and give you a line of long-legged guitar picking man next. So when you have an infection, it can cause laryngitis. And what that is the swelling of the vocal cords, and that causes it to not be able to fully connect. So it produces that really just nothing sound coming out. And that's what I had. And when you get sick, and actually that can happen when you overuse your voice as well, you can get laryngitis. And that's what's called acute laryngitis. And there are a lot of tips that I'd like to just give you guys that help me get over it, because one morning I woke up, couldn't even talk. And I was genuinely worried, because if you really damage your voice, you can get what's called a polyp or a vocal nodule. And it's just like a little cyst that rests on your vocal cord, and it's career killing for singers. I think it's something that the community of singers needs to really address more, because it's a real danger if you overuse your voice, and that includes talking and stuff like that. And I'm a chatterbox, so it's very difficult for me. So discipline is important. But if you're in that situation where you're like, oh man, I'm sick, or like my vocal cords are swollen, the number one thing is sleep. And that's good for everything in your body because that's the time your body takes to heal. So you pass out. If you got to take a nap in the middle of the day, you take that nap because your body's telling you, hey, dude, you need to reset and we need to get our white blood cells working to help fix whatever's going on inside you. Um, After that, I think steaming your voice with humidity and I like in a warm shower, something like just to get fluid into your to relax your muscles and into your lungs and everything to get everything loose. And then throat lozenges can help, but they sort of just kind of mask the uneasiness you feel. But I'd be careful with that because you can get, depending on the lozenge you eat, you can get menthol poisoning, which is not really good for you. A lot of hours spent over the toilet, not very fun. But what's really great is stuff like if obviously if it gets real bad, go to your doctor. They'll prescribe like a corticosteroid or something like that. I was put on prednisone and it helps alleviate some of that, but there's risks to that. But what I really like is stuff like this. Um, it's sort of like holistic, all natural, like cough syrup sort of thing, and it's just natural ingredients. It's no like medicine. It's honey, sea salt, lemon peel, cayenne pepper, clove, zinc, that kind of stuff. And you just take a couple sips and you feel good. And the last thing I'll mention on it is vocal rest. So that means if it's really bad, no talking at all. Don't whisper. Don't raise your voice. Don't have conversations in loud places like restaurants or after a concert. But there's some research out there that says like, oh, you don't want to totally not stop talking because your vocal cords could become paralyzed and that you won't be able to use them. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, so I don't exactly know the full scope on that, but do whatever you think you need to do to preserve your voice because the last thing you want to do, and I'm guilty of this, is like, think you're fine and then you go sing a full set in your car, which is not a good place to sing because the speakers are right there. You're going to blow your voice out. And then you find out, oh, no, I was just getting better. And now I'm back to where I started and possibly into the red zone, which is vocal damage. So I just wanted to I just wanted to get that out there to the singers of the world to really stress that although you may feel young and skinny and invincible, your voice is delicate. And if you're trying to make a career out of it, you really need to have that discipline to understand, like, hey, I don't want to let myself down. I don't want to let my bandmates down. I don't want to let the fans down. Don't want to let the world down. So you take care of yourself.
I have a question.
I
Throat
saw your hand
lozenges.
raised. Go right
Are
ahead.
those like the I think Andy does this thing where he like puts it in his mouth and they chews on it or something and swallows.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure what Andy does, but I know that Billy Idol will take like some throat lozenges and he'll suck on them and it melts in your
That's
mouth.
it. That's
Yeah,
what it is.
it
Okay.
mentholates everything and kind of coats it and stuff. I prefer honey and tea, which is really good for loosening the muscles, and it's an astringent if you put like lemon in it, so it gets all the mucus out, right? Um, and some people like the chloroseptic. I'm not a fan of that so much because you got to spit it out and it kind of leaves my mouth kind of tingly. But some people like it. But do your own research and find out what works for you as a singer and keep on that discipline and again take care of yourself, take care of your body, make sure you exercise just a little bit. If you're a singer, you don't have to be a health nut like me, but um it's important to look after your voice because it takes a beating, especially if you're in the rock and roll game, man. It's it's not for the faint of heart.
I think we have one more question, and it's kind of a thing we talked about trying to do. Yes, we do bring people on here mostly for music, but I figured it'd be a fun idea to like shake it up. And you seem like a very weird guy, like me, like myself. We're both very strange
That's
birds.
an accurate statement.
So I think you'll be into this. If you were an animal, what would you be and why?
Oof. That's a great question. And I've thought about this for many years. And the answer changes as time goes on. But as it stands right now, I really think I'd be like a seal. Spend a lot of time in front of the refrigerator, just I feel like that's something like I am. I make a lot of weird noises. I crawl out of ice holes like this sometimes, and I peer over and then I pop back down. I'm very weird, and I make a lot of funny noises. I slap myself a lot in the gut because I'm hungry, and I scour the land for fish and places to bury my head in snow. So I think that is my answer right now. Is I'd be like a seal like an Arctic seal.
You know, you get so many people that would be basic and be like, I'm an eagle or I'm a dog or whatever.
I don't think I have the nose to be an eagle. I really don't.
We're
Time,
going to sign half
time,
past dead, right?
half past dead. Okay, first one, it's easy. We already did dead.
Mhm.
So half, right?
Yep.
So you take your hand right here. 1, 2. So just like half, right? 1, 2.
Okay,
1,
so
2.
like it's separate motion though.
Right. 1,
Okay.
2. And then past is I gotta turn my chair here. Okay, so you get your hand here, right? And you just go over your shoulder like this, right? So over your shoulder, just like
Okay.
that. So half,
Half.
past, dead.
I love it. I'm going to
Okay.
do that in my shows now. What I usually do at the end of my shows is I do half, pass, and then actually I go half because of my guitar. So I go half, past, and then dead, and then we end it. But I'm going to do this now. I like this one better.
I like yours better.
Nah,
Because you
nah.
do the yeah. Oh, that's fucking cool, man.
Or I could do,
Anytime somebody
or I
does
could
that
do
on
this
stage, I'm like,
and then do it. I don't know. Who knows? We'll figure it out.
Yeah, just do a variation. Just be like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
done.
Anyway, yeah, let's do this.
Thank you for coming on the show today, Alex. This was a lot of fun. I had a
Thank you guys
blast.
for having me. If anyone's interested, you can check us out at halfpastdeadmusic.com. All of our ads on social media are the letters HPD, Half Past Dead. We just put out our single, The Evil That You Make, coming next. 2 more singles, Show Me the Way and Unbreakable, and then Kiss the World Goodbye comes out. Peace, love, and acceptance. Have a great day, everybody. Love. That's all
we
there
gotta
is.
wave though. We gotta wave. We gotta wave.